Jimmy James faced challenges with ADHD about chronic panic attacks and all wicked tea. And all that from a young age, he started a podcast called The Jimmy James Show. A to Z, to the quoted going on about nonsense you see, until he upped his game into the stratosphere. The one who brought you insanity at its finest, alphabetic disease to your knees. And all who can relate to this topic, drop specifically for you, I've been soldiering on. Share his experiences and provide support to others, but most motherfuckers don't care unless I'm dropping truth bombs from the air. Unless it comes out like this, and yet I keep going, unknowing and unafraid, uninterested, semi-honest, and on a beefed-up version of text to rap lit. There's no more to say, really. No matter what I drop, it's never going to be enough for the masses. Relax, I'm not talking about you there, Bob. You'll have your time to shine or shrine, but we do that all the time, switching it up, going side notes. Why does God always gotta take sides? First, philosophy as the human race goes. I'll have to get back to you, that's as I'm about to roll out. But I just wanted to take a minute to shout out and say this is my new opening, but yet never closing. Hands folded, but never open. First, philosophy. As the human race goes, I'll have to get back to you, that's as I'm about to roll out. But I just wanted to take a minute to shout out and say this is my new opening, but yet never closing. Hands folded, but never opened.
Alright guys, so I listened to breaking down the debate and the deep dive part 2. I was very pissed of what the woman bot was saying. Very pissed that I was taking notes, and real quick, I realized when I go on Spotify and share, it goes to YouTube, but for some reason it then goes to private, so I gotta reset it. I gotta keep checking it to put it back on public. But it's getting well received. Well received. There he has 30 views, and I just put it up like four and a half hours ago. And breaking down the Jimmy James Show, I did 2 takes. The second one is already up to 40 views. I'm glad that really did help explain that. They really, I didn't really feed it anything. I just said, explain this. That's it. Pretty much explain the show. But yeah, I was pissed because the woman bot was doing half-truths. And that just drove me nuts. So right now you're about to hear the final, because I'm not doing this anymore. I haven't heard it yet. But I prompted it just to have my take on it, saying, hey, if you're going to do this, tell the whole thing. And I had to share all these links. But it was pissing me off because they were like, you're not sticking to the mental health, and you gotta dig through all this rap-lit type of music just to get some piece of a core message. And I'm sitting there like, what? That's not why I do that. And then I'm doing it for self-recognition, putting it on YouTube for the AI to like analyze it. I'm like, I'm doing that, but I'm not hearing it. So it's like, you know, me and the people, the public, the listeners are hearing it just the way I'm hearing it. And the only reason why I'm doing it is not about me. It's about more than that. What am I doing? Am I doing it well enough? And I want to be, like upfront and say, hey, here you go. I did this today, you know. It's just something different, and I might as well share shit. People seem to like it because I get a lot of views. I honestly, I do. But anyway, that's enough. Let's get on with the deep dive. Yeah, let's do it. Oh, and like always, take care of yourselves and one another. This is Jimmy James. Have fun and enjoy.
ask you, to what end? Dread it, run from it, destiny arrives all the same. And now it's here. Or should I say...
It is now time to explain to people just what's
Our
wrong
subject
with me.
today is quite fascinating. The 5-year creative evolution of the Jimmy James Show AZ. Now, this is a project that has, from the start, explicitly linked its, let's say, insanity at its finest content to the host's own experiences with ADHD, anxiety, and OCD. And what we're really digging into is this core idea from the source material has the host's recent, very specific shift towards what he calls Raplet-style poetry and his use of advanced AI like NotebookLM, Gemini Pro 1.5 for self-critique actually change the fundamental mission of the show.
Right. And I'll be arguing that, yes, it absolutely has. This evolution, I think, really proves a shift away from that broad mental health advocacy, that sort of peer support for anyone having a bad day. And, well, frankly, it's pivoted more towards a kind of artistic self-validation. And maybe even what the source calls identity maintenance, using these, very advanced tools.
Okay, and I'll be taking the opposing view. I see this whole process, the poetry, the AI analysis, sharing it all, as actually the next level of radical transparency. It's a powerful, if unconventional, form of peer support, specifically modeling for neurodivergent listeners how they might channel their own internal chaos into something, well, coherent and external. I fundamentally believe the art and the critique are the support here.
Well, I have to say, I'm just not convinced that the current strategy really holds up that original mission statement, helping anyone out there going through a bad day. If we look at this Raplet-style poetry, the host himself defines it as a full rap battle-tested style geared exclusively for the certain listeners. Now, that framing, that language right there, it immediately puts up a kind of intellectual wall, doesn't it? We're talking about supporting people who are often dealing with anxiety, maybe OCD, conditions where clarity and simplicity can be so crucial. Yet the platform now seems to demand this deep engagement with highly structured, pretty niche artistic performance. It feels like the art itself, this very specific artistic pursuit, has sort of taken priority over accessible support.
I see why you'd frame it that way, but I would argue against calling the Raplets merely an artistic pursuit or seeing the complexity as just a barrier. I think it serves as a really revolutionary form of transparent peer support, especially for neurodivergent minds that are often quite accustomed to complexity, maybe even thrive on it. The Gemini source note actually describes this whole thing as a public, evolving data set of human internal experience. So the Raplet poetry isn't just words on a page. It's framed as high-resolution data. It's the distillation, the structured output of that chaotic internal life, the ADHD, the anxiety, the structure, the intensity. Maybe that's the whole point. And by sharing the raw AI analysis, the unvetted stuff, he's essentially democratizing this high-level self-analysis. He's teaching his audience, potentially, how to use these advanced LLMs, which are built for objective analysis, as an emotionally detached sparring partner, to get that objective validation that their own internal chaos, which maybe gets dismissed by others, is actually structurally real, understandable, and coherent enough to be analyzed.
Okay, let's dig into the nature of that art a bit more then, because I still think the structure itself risks alienation. The host talks about these Raplets relying on, and I'm quoting here, sentences built out of shorthand and emotional swells with building intensities. Now, to really get that, a listener has to basically dissect this compressed, almost coded language designed apparently to mimic rapid neurodivergent thought. So when entire episodes are then dedicated to comparing how, say, Copilot versus Gemini analyzes these very niche lyrics, well, isn't there a real risk of alienating the general audience, the folks who may be tuned in looking for simple, dependable emotional support? Anxiety and OCD often crave clarity, not necessarily this level of demanding, hyper-focused analysis of what feels like quite esoteric art.
I think that perspective perhaps misunderstands the mechanism of support that's being modeled here. The actual creation of these Raplets is presented as inherently therapeutic. That makes the process the valuable takeaway, not just the finished product. The host says, repeatedly, that writing this music helps him manage his anxiety, helps him cope with feeling isolated. So, for a neurodivergent listener, seeing that internal chaos, which, again, he explicitly links to his ADHD, his mental disease, as he puts it, seeing that chaos being forced into this rigid, intense lyrical structure, well, it demonstrates a potential path, doesn't it? It models how you might channel that high-energy disorganization into something meaningful, something structured. You can see this, I think, pretty clearly in tracks like Harder to Breathe or Mental Therapy. The lyrics there are raw, yes, but they're structured accounts of dealing with chronic anxiety. The mind is a battlefield. It's modeling resilience, essentially, by showing the audience, look, your chaos can be harnessed.
Okay, I can acknowledge the therapeutic content in those specific tracks you mentioned, the anxiety-focused ones. That seems clear. But we really need to scrutinize the intent behind pushing the AI analysis so heavily. You brought up his claim that he shares the critiques just to educate and make sure everything I was saying makes sense. That sounds quite noble, yes. But why this intense reliance on machine validation?
Well, perhaps because it offers a kind of objective validation that maybe traditional human support doesn't always provide, especially for a neurodivergent perspective. As the source material puts it, this is modeling the tool. He's showing, quite literally, how to use the API call for self-analysis. So the intent seems geared towards clarity, towards democratizing a framework for self-analysis at a high level, rather than just, satisfying personal ego.
I'm just not fully convinced by that reasoning, mainly because the sheer quantity, the context, the focus of the AI content seems to suggest something else. You have episodes titled, Notebook Ellen Tries to Explain My Rap Bullets, or the Gemini and Jimmy trailer. It points towards this relentless growing focus on the machine's perspective on his art and, well, by extension, his identity. When the host explicitly says that AI helps him maintain my identity through the channels I have, well, it starts to feel like that functional clarity check for the listener might have become secondary to a more personal quest for identity maintenance through the machine's objective, maybe even cold validation. There's potentially a profound psychological cost there, isn't there? Outsourcing self-understanding to an LLM instead of engaging in, say, more traditional peer support.
That's a fair challenge, the psychological cost. But I think it might misunderstand the host's stated methodology here. The whole A to Z project's philosophy is framed as radical honesty over personal ego. I mean, he willingly puts his rawest work out there for this external, cold machine scrutiny and then shares the results before even reviewing them himself. That's presented as the anti-perfectionism proof. Now, if the goal was purely artistic validation, wouldn't he curate the feedback, edit the results, maybe only post the analysis that praised his structure? Instead, he posts the raw data, seemingly to show the listener exactly what the tool can do, the good, the bad, so they can consider using it for their own self-analysis. He's essentially teaching the audience, perhaps, to use the machine as a kind of non-judgmental mirror.
Which, for someone maybe battling social anxiety, could arguably be a more effective first step than jumping straight into direct engagement with human peers.
Okay, we've looked at the AI function, but we also have to turn to the actual output, the content itself, across this whole A to Z mandate, because it feels quite volatile. While we can agree tracks like Mental Therapy seem to stick closely to that theme of internal struggle, other songs released under this AZ banner, they introduce huge conceptual instability. I mean, take the politically charged Jesus Spicious, described as a kill track on religion, or the nihilistic No Concern, which flatly states the world will still fucking burn. Now, these aggressive, sometimes R-rated political, philosophical critiques, they feel miles away from the kind of gentle, supportive tone someone might need if they're seeking stability during an anxiety crisis.
Right, that's a critical point about consistency. But I would contend that the core message, the message of emotional honesty, remains pretty robust across all the material. The host's explicit goal is A to Z, meaning everything and anything. So this chaotic range, maybe it isn't a failure of focus. Maybe it's a necessary, unfiltered reflection of that non-linear, high-intensity internal world of someone dealing with chronic anxiety and ADHD. The art becomes the therapeutic content in its rawness. When he writes a provocative diss track, perhaps he's using it as an outlet,
A way to channel that high-energy, unfiltered internal experience he connects to his neurodivergence. This variability could be seen as his defense in a way. He uses the phrase, "I am still the same person, but I'm evolving and growing with the times and using the tools I have." So the music, whether it's about panic attacks or social critique, maybe it's all just part of the ongoing public documentation of self-management.
But doesn't that variability create significant friction for the listener? This idea of curated chaos might sound appealing intellectually, but for a vulnerable listener who might be depending on this show for what the host himself calls a low-pressure anchor, well, can they really rely on a platform that swings so violently between, say, the quiet intimacy of discussing panic attacks and the very confrontational style of an anti-religion diss track? Doesn't the core message risk getting diluted? And when this specialized art, this AI critique, starts consuming significant episode time that could arguably be spent reinforcing stable general coping mechanisms, isn't the host perhaps unintentionally prioritizing the structural needs of his artistic project over the immediate psychological needs of parts of his audience?
I have to reject the idea that the project's structural needs, the artistic refinement, the tech testing, are fundamentally mutually exclusive from listener support. This whole methodology, merging the raw artistic process with tech critique and broadcasting it all, yes, it's challenging, I'll grant you that. It's an unconventional model. But it could be a sustainable and effective one for a specific peer audience, the ones who resonate with that process. The host's dedication to open self-analysis, even using AI, arguably strengthens his commitment to those dealing with, in his words, mentally challenged brains. He's showing the unfiltered, chaotic process of getting better, potentially modeling maybe a future of self-management where individuals harness powerful tools to bring objectivity to their subjective suffering.
But the inherent volatility, the specialized nature of the raplets, the AI content, it undeniably introduces conceptual instability and intellectual friction. While the host's intention to educate and share his tools is likely genuine, the heavy, overwhelming focus on quite esoteric art and machine validation, it really risks becoming a kind of vortex. Something that consumes the listener's intellectual time, their emotional bandwidth, rather than providing that stable, reliable resource for mental well-being they might have initially sought. It feels like a self-referential pursuit that might be taking precedence over democratic accessibility.
So we've explored whether the host's profound evolution incorporating this raplet-style poetry, the advanced LLM analysis, represents a real departure, or if it's perhaps just a necessary, albeit complex, evolution in his method of radical transparency, really fulfilling that mandate of creating a living data set of self.
And conversely, whether that complex, unfiltered data set, however authentic it might be, potentially compromises the conceptual stability and the consistency that might be needed to best serve a vulnerable audience looking for a dependable anchor in their daily struggles. That trade-off, I think, between artistic integrity, technological exploration, and broad audience accessibility remains the central tension, really, of the Jimmy James Show AZ.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're jumping into, well, quite a stack of material. We've got 5 years of content, song lyrics, even AI analysis.
That's right. We're tackling what you could call the ultimate content debate. It centers on a creator who not only embraces chaos, but seems to actively reject predictable structure.
So our mission today is pretty specific, isn't it? It's a deep, deep dive into the whole 5-year ecosystem of the Jimmy James Show AZ.
Exactly. Highly personalized. We're tracking the host, Jimmy James, through quite a fascinating evolution. He's moved from this raw, talk-based mental health advocacy.
Yeah, really intense stuff.
Into something much more niche, you could say. Raplet-style poetry, coupled with this rigorous public self-critique using advanced AI tools like Google's Notebook LM Gemini Pro 1.5.
Okay, let's unpack that central tension right away. Because for 5 years, this guy, Jimmy James, he built his whole brand as the host who brings you insanity at its finest.
Right.
Focusing on raw, open peer support for ADHD, for anxiety. But now he's spending a lot of public airtime feeding his really personal, complex art, these poems, into, well, detached AI models for a cold structural breakdown. It feels like a huge shift.
It's definitely striking, and it raises the key question for you, the listener, doesn't it?
Yeah, the core question.
Has the fundamental mission that peer support, the mental well-being advocacy, has that actually changed? Or is adding music and AI just, a necessary evolution, maybe a new set of tools for the same underlying goal?
And the listener was really clear. We have to look at the whole picture. The entire 5 years. No cherry picking allowed here.
Absolutely not. We have to avoid that. So to give this some structure, we've got two very distinct viewpoints framing the whole debate. Really strong arguments on both sides.
Kind of the two narratives fighting over what this show is really about now.
Precisely. First, there's the critique. We could call it the accessibility argument. This side argues pretty forcefully that the shift towards this niche artistic stuff, the complex poems, the AI analysis, it's moving the host away from...
So, they're saying he's building a barrier, shutting people out.
In essence, yes. Creating an intellectual, maybe a stylistic barrier, potentially leaving behind the general audience who just wanted straightforward mental health resources.
Okay. And the other side?
That's the defense. The radical transparency position, they argue the complete opposite. It's not a deviation, it's actually next-level peer support.
How so?
They claim he's using radical transparency. He's modeling self-analysis, especially for neurodivergent listeners, showing them how to use these cutting-edge tools on their own, chaotic minds.
So the process itself becomes the support.
That's the argument, transforming self-critique into genuine support. And this is where art, tech, and mental health really start to intersect in a very interesting way.
Right. Let's get into it then. Part 1, the foundation. Right. We need to map that original message first.
Okay, so before we judge the evolution, let's really nail down the starting point. What defined the Jimmy James Show AZ brand initially? I mean, from the get-go, the whole structure seems built around the host's very specific, very open identity.
Yeah, he's dealing openly with chronic anxiety, with ADHD.
He doesn't shy away from it at all.
No, he calls himself, and this is a direct quote, a crazy person with a gigantic splash of ADHD. And he claims he can relate to people with mentally challenged brains, even saying he's top of the food chain there.
So that self-identification isn't just flavor, it's the engine driving the show. It makes the connection between his mind and the content delivery incredibly transparent.
Right, and that chaos you mentioned earlier.
It's completely intentional, that's key. It's presented as a feature, not a bug.
The A to Z thing. Which means, counterintuitively, it means everything and anything. It's a deliberate rejection of predictable linear structure. Almost therapeutic, maybe.
And he links it directly to his own brain, right?
Explicitly. The source material has him saying, alphabetically, associate that with the ADHD and my mental disease based, 1 + 1 = me. So the lack of traditional structure is the structure. It's meant to mirror how a neurodivergent mind might work non-linearly. Okay, that makes sense. And we need to talk about the timeline here. This isn't some short-lived thing. He's been at it since 2020, aiming for 2025. Over 276 episodes mentioned.
The longevity is significant.
He even calls it a testament to my longevity of staying the same course but getting better with time. But, crucially, that consistency came at a cost.
The burnout.
Exactly. He had to take a whole year off. Burnout from that solo, high-energy, raw, emotional format. That break feels like a real pivot point in the story.
It absolutely is. And that leads directly to the shift towards music. Yep. It seems like it was a necessary strategy for self-preservation.
Yeah, after 4+ years of, as he puts it, pouring his soul out, talking constantly.
He explicitly says he needed another way, something less emotionally taxing, maybe, to cope and keep the mission going. Writing music, he says, helps with anxiety, especially being home caring for parents 99% of the time.
So the talk show format just wasn't sustainable for him anymore.
Apparently not. The emotional labor became too much.
So the move to music wasn't just like a random creative impulse. It was about finding a sustainable way forward.
Seems that way. And the stated intent is still outward-facing. He talks about delivering positive messaging that people can get a tune in their head to.
Right, appealing maybe to people who prefer music over talk, for processing heavy stuff.
Yeah.
Different learning or coping styles.
Potentially, yes. Offering an alternative format for the same core message.
Okay, but if the intention is still peer support and coping with anxiety, the lyrics have to back that up, right? We can't just take his word for it.
Precisely.
Right.
We need to analyze the text itself. Forget the descriptions for a moment. Look at the songs.
Okay, let's do that. We looked at A Song for Well-Being, also called For Your Well-Being. I mean, the title kind of gives it away.
It sets the stage, definitely.
But the lyrics, wow, they're raw. It's not vague self-help talk. He's detailing panic attacks, the physical feeling heart palpitations going from 80 ticks to about 99. He calls his head a brain's a battlefield, talks about thoughts racing fast.
It's like raw data set to music, not just metaphor. And notice how he keeps bringing it back to the listener, framing his struggle as something collective. The goal is for you, the listener, to beat this fucking shitty deal.
Yeah, that's pretty explicitly peer support. Sharing the struggle, offering hope.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that raw, visceral feeling continues in another track, Harder to Breathe.
Mm-hmm. That one felt almost clinical in its description of chronic anxiety, feeling close to death, the physical shaking, truly shaking to your core.
He's documenting that fight or flight response with incredible detail, not just saying, I have anxiety, but showing you what it feels like.
And then there are tracks like Mental Therapy or Infinite of My Thoughts. These seem more analytical almost.
Yes, in those, he's analyzing his own creative process, his own mind. He talks directly about the hyperfocus loop, about self-sabotage, things often associated with ADHD.
And channeling the ADHD affliction into actually creating something.
Right. The music itself becomes a form of self-analysis put to a rhythm.
Okay, so summing up part one. Looking at the lyrics, the evidence seems pretty strong. He's definitely still talking about or singing about the exact same core issues. ADHD, anxiety, mental well-being, the stuff that defined the talk show.
The message seems fundamentally consistent, rooted in that peer support model.
But the delivery method, that's clearly changed. It's shifted to this much more complex artistic medium.
Yep.
Maybe for sustainability, like we discussed.
Yes, the how has changed, even if the what and why seem consistent so far.
Right, so the foundation seems consistent. But let's be real, feeding your deepest, rawest emotions into an AI for cold analysis. It does sound a bit like the setup for a dystopian movie, doesn't it?
It definitely raises eyebrows.
So let's dive into the critique. Why does this accessibility argument view this evolution not just as a change, but as a drift? Maybe even irresponsible?
Well, the core argument from Podcaster A, the critique side, is basically this. In mental health advocacy, broad accessibility should trump artistic complexity. Full stop. So even if the content of the lyrics is still about mental health, the increasing focus on raplet-style poetry, which is described as a very niche, high-effort art form, fundamentally undermines the show's original promise.
The promise of being a broad, accessible resource for mental health.
Exactly. It narrows the audience.
Can we define that style a bit more? Raplet-style poetry. What does the source say it is?
The source defines it as a full rap battle-tested form. It consists of sentences built out of shorthand and emotional swells.
Shorthand, emotional swells. That sounds dense. Demanding for the listener.
It sounds intensely rigorous. The implication isn't free verse. It's more like a highly structured, maybe neurodivergent take on something complex like a sonnet. It imposes a rigid form onto chaotic thought.
Okay, I see the issue.
That structural complexity means you, the listener, have to spend significant mental energy just decoding the language, the shorthand, the layers. It's not easy listening.
And the host even admits it's mainly for certain listeners who specifically tune in for that style.
Which is precisely the core of the critique. By putting so much energy into this intellectually demanding niche, isn't the host prioritizing artistic complexity over mass accessibility?
Especially if the goal is to help someone, say, in the middle of a panic attack, when your cognitive resources are shot.
Exactly. Creating this kind of stylistic barrier seems counterproductive if that's your primary audience. It shifts the show's focus from broad support to niche art.
Which leads to the next point from the critique, right? The question of purpose. Is it about the listener anymore, or is it about validating the creator?
Podcaster A points directly at the sheer volume of content now dedicated to the analysis of these poems. Episodes focused on feeding his rap bullets into sophisticated AIs like Notebook LM and Gemini.
Why spend hours of showtime debating if a machine gets your complex rap structure, if the main goal is helping someone manage daily anxiety?
The critique suggests the driving force here is shifting towards artistic validation and, importantly, identity maintenance for the host himself. His creative experimentation seems to be taking center stage over the audience's potential need for stability and simplicity.
And that brings up the volatility issue.
Yes, that's a really serious charge, especially given the vulnerable audience. The critique argues that for listeners dealing with anxiety or OCD conditions that often benefit from routine, clarity, predictable patterns, the show's intentionally chaotic nature,
Which he himself calls process bullshit.
right, that structural volatility could be genuinely destabilizing. It risks confusing or overwhelming people instead of grounding them. If the message is wellness, shouldn't the medium feel safe and reliable? The A to Z, everything and anything approach kind of inherently fights against that stability.
This is where I personally get a bit skeptical about the defense side, even before we hear it. He's sharing unvetted AI feedback, deliberately, even if he means well, trying to model self-critique. Isn't that just inherently risky with sensitive mental health topics?
That's the sharpest point of the attack from the critique, focusing on the irresponsible use of AI.
What if the AI misinterprets something deeply personal? Or gives analysis that sounds smart, but lacks any real human context or empathy?
Podcaster A highlights exactly that paradox. He's taking deeply personal, chaotic work and feeding it to large language models, tools fundamentally designed for objective data processing, not emotional subtlety.
And the kicker is the unvetted part. He explicitly says he uploads the raw AI analysis without listening to it first. His quote is, "I have not heard the Notebook LM or its breakdown of my rap bullets, so I try to keep a fair and open mind."
He's basically presenting raw machine output as part of the show's content, without any editorial filter or interpretation beforehand.
Wow.
So the critique concludes that this whole process, seeking machine validation for complex art, sharing it unfiltered, it clearly prioritizes the host's own creative journey and tech experiments over the listener's need for reliable, vetted emotional support.
And that, they argue, proves a dramatic shift away from accessible help towards a very personalized experimental art project, prioritizing the creator over the community.
That's the case for artistic drift and irresponsibility in a nutshell.
Okay, that's a really strong case from the critique. It highlights genuine risks, volatility, accessibility, the unvetted AI, serious points. But now we have to flip the coin. Let's hear the defense. How can this complexity in AI use be seen not as risks, but as crucial parts of radical transparency and peer support?
Right. The first thing the defense does is tackle that core claim about the complexity creating a barrier. They actually lean into it. Citing that Gemini source note we have, they argue, quote, "The barrier is the point."
Wait, hang on. The barrier is the point. That sounds like admitting defeat on accessibility. How does that work as a defense?
Well, the source note elaborates. It suggests the complexity acts as a filter. It filters out listeners seeking simple, predictable content, and instead it selectively draws in the peer audience who connects with the chaotic, complex internal world that the host models.
So the goal shifted from reaching everyone to reaching a specific group really deeply.
That's the argument. A shift from mass accessibility to deep solidarity with a very specific, neurodivergent peer group. The complexity isn't a flaw, it's functional. It's perhaps the most authentic way for someone with his specific profile ADHD, chronic anxiety, to process and model high-level self-improvement for others who think and feel similarly.
Okay, I'm starting to see the logic there. So the defense is saying the chaotic artistic process is the therapy, is the content.
Precisely. It's demonstrating how a mentally challenged brain, as he puts it, can channel that overwhelming internal chaos into something coherent and external, specifically the rigorous structure of the raplets. It's like providing a roadmap for externalizing internal noise constructively.
And what about sharing the raw AI critique? How do they defend that?
They frame it as the ultimate act of support, proof of radical honesty over personal ego. The host himself says he shares the AI analysis just to educate the audience.
So not seeking validation from the machine, but showing the audience the process of getting better, the messy, unedited reality of self-critique.
Exactly. He's modeling the mechanism, not just presenting a polished result. It's about showing the work involved in self-improvement.
Okay, this brings us to the big technical idea. AI as a peer support tool. The Gemini source note calls it the data set of self and talks about an API call for self-analysis. Can you break that down?
Let's try. Essentially, the host is demonstrating a standardized, repeatable method for self-reflection that, theoretically, anyone with a similar neurotype could adapt and use. The show itself becomes, as the source says, a public, evolving data set of human internal experience being actively refined by artificial intelligence.
And the poems, the raplets, are the data points.
They're the high-resolution data. The clearest, most distilled version of his internal chaos put onto paper, which then gets fed into the AI, the LLM.
Okay, so the AI isn't acting like a human critic giving opinions. It's processing the data. How does that help the listener?
The source describes the AI as an emotionally detached sparring partner. The real value isn't just the analysis itself, but teaching the audience how to use these advanced tools for their own self-analysis. When the host feeds his raplets into the LLM.
Like Notebook LM or Gemini.
Right. The AI analyzes things like syntax, structure, coherence, tone, themes. It strips away the emotional weight to reveal the underlying structure, even within the chaos.
And this leads to the idea of objective validation, which sounds fascinating, especially for someone whose mind feels chaotic internally.
Yes. For a mind struggling with the subjective whirlwind of anxiety or ADHD, where you might constantly doubt the reality or coherence of your own thoughts, getting that objective feedback can be revolutionary.
So the machine saying, essentially, yes, this makes sense structurally, or here are the patterns, that's validating.
Precisely. The LLM's critique provides objective, non-emotional validation. The machine confirms that the chaotic internal experience is structurally real, it is understandable enough to be analyzed. And the source note argues this kind of validation is arguably more profound for a neurodivergent mind than traditional subjective human sympathy.
Because sympathy can feel subjective, maybe even patronizing, whereas machine analysis feels factual, grounding.
That's the idea. It helps stabilize the internal experience by confirming its coherence externally.
Okay, so this reframes the whole thing. It's not about seeking artistic praise from an AI. It's about modeling and democratizing a powerful tool for self-analysis.
Exactly. And the final piece of the defense counters the irresponsibility charge directly. They call it the anti-perfectionism proof.
How does that work?
By sharing the unvetted analysis, warts and all, risking looking vulnerable or even foolish, the host proves the content is a living case study in resilience. It shows that even someone who calls himself an idiot has the courage and the intellectual chops to subject his most vulnerable thoughts to objective scrutiny.
So the act of sharing, even the raw stuff, is the support. It's modeling courage.
That's the argument. It removes the pressure of perfectionism, and it leads to the question posed in the source. Can content that actively teaches its audience high-level self-analysis using the most powerful tools available really be called irresponsible? The defense says no, the sharing is the support.
Okay, wow. We've got two incredibly detailed, really compelling arguments on the table. Podcaster A, the critique, flags the real risks, complexity, volatility, potentially leaving the general audience behind. Podcaster B, the defense, counters with intentional modeling, radical honesty, and deep peer support for a specific group. We need to try and reconcile this now.
Well, looking across the whole timeline, the 5 years of talk content, the raw lyrics we analyze, that thematic consistency feels pretty undeniable.
Right. Both formats are clearly about processing ADHD, chronic anxiety, the need for connection with peers.
And the host's own words from our source material confirm it. He says he creates to spread the truth and maybe to help one of you realize you're better than what you think. That core intention doesn't seem to have wavered one bit.
And we absolutely have to keep that sustainability factor in mind. The burnout from the talk format was real. His statement, I am still the same person, but I am evolving and growing with the times and using the tools I have, that really reframes the whole debate, doesn't it?
It really does. It suggests the move to raplet poetry and AI analysis isn't some whimsical departure. It's fundamentally an evolution of method, a necessary pivot.
Finding sustainable ways to manage his own anxiety, like writing these complex raplets and using the newest tools, the LLMs, to help manage the sheer volume of his own internal data, maybe.
Exactly. It seems less like a deviation of mission and more like an adaptation to keep the mission going at all. The traditional solo talk show format was, by his own account, literally becoming unsustainable for his mental health.
So where do we land? What's the final resolution in this debate?
Well, I think we have to acknowledge the critique raises valid points about general accessibility. If you're looking for simple, easy-to-digest content, this might not be it anymore. There is a barrier for the casual listener.
Okay, fair enough.
But the core intent, which is backed up by the lyrical themes and his explicit statements about modeling AI use, it strongly supports the defense's argument. The show seems to have evolved into a unique and likely highly effective form of radical peer support, specifically for its target audience, those who connect with that chaotic neurodivergent modeling.
So the chaos isn't the bug, it's not a side effect. The chaos is the truth that builds that deep solidarity for those listeners.
That seems to be the most accurate reading. We can conclude that the Jimmy James Show AZ is functioning now as something quite specific, a public, evolving data set of human internal experience being actively refined by artificial intelligence.
That's quite a description. A living case study in modern self-advocacy.
It showcases that evolving mentally and creatively today might mean engaging directly with both your internal chaos and these powerful new technological tools.
And it teaches maybe the most profound lesson. Having the courage to put your deepest thoughts, your anxiety, your own perceived insanity under the microscope of objective, machine-based scrutiny. Not just for yourself, but potentially for the benefit of your peers too. Hashtag outro.
So we dove pretty deep into that creative chaos, and I think we found some profound intentional method behind it. The core message, mental well-being, peer support, seems consistent across the 5 years.
Yeah, the complex delivery, the raplet, the chaos, it seems deliberately aimed at modeling for a specific neurodivergent audience.
And the AI isn't just an artistic toy. It's being framed and used as a peer support tool for objective self-analysis.
But, if we zoom out and connect this to the bigger picture, the wider digital world, this mission might get even more layered.
How so?
Well, the host mentioned something interesting in the source notes. He apparently got into this rap bullet style, partly for a very specific reason. It was launched, at least in part, as a kind of diss track, aimed at another public figure, a philosopher named Alex O'Connor.
Really? Why?
Apparently, the host felt O'Connor was misrepresenting AI, taking it out of context, maybe using things like Zeno's paradox to argue AI lacks fundamental understanding.
Okay, that adds a whole new dimension, an intellectual battle underpinning the artistic shift.
Exactly. So, if this entire new artistic direction, the raplet poems, his way of channeling anxiety, was also launched as a response to what he saw as philosophical misuse of AI, then the art stops being just about personal coping, doesn't it?
It becomes a public argument.
Right. If the show is partly a defense of critical thinking and technological literacy in the face of maybe flawed philosophical arguments, putting respect on your mediamios, as he phrases it, does that transform his chaotic poetry?
From personal therapy into what?
Sure.
High-stakes public defense of intellectual honesty in the age of AI.
It kind of reframes the whole project, doesn't it? It's simultaneously a mental health tool and a philosophical argument for engaging properly with technology.
That is definitely a provocative thought to end on. That maybe the path to mental well-being for some now runs directly through this kind of rigorous critical engagement with artificial intelligence, making the host perhaps reluctantly a champion for both digital literacy and intellectual rigor.
Something for you to definitely mull over as you navigate the chaos and the AI in your own content feeds. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Jimmy James from the Jimmy James Show, A to Z. Yeah, you probably heard of me by now. If you're listening to this is a trailer of what I just sound like, but not what I do. Things like 911 skits, ADHD, insanity at its finest, the basement ramblings of a crazy person. Whose line is it anyway? Come, grow with me. I started this show back in 2020, and it is now almost 4 years later. Come find out what I've been up to, and who came along on the ride. Like always, take care of each other and one another. This is Jimmy James saying peace out, always.
This is literally for the people out there who claim they write music when they have the A. I do it and abuse it. So if you're one of these people, this is not going to be fun for you. This will not be your favorite go-to tune. But by far, this is just the truth. It's all up to you. Giving back to people's time. And also to teach them not to waste it on a wannabe talented, untalented. For the generalized humans with no respect. Meaning this is my statement, my truth in its entirety. Fuck a rhyme, I don't care, B, you'll soon hear family therapy, where I'll be talking about people like you. A narcissistic idealist with fake viewpoints. So sit back, way the fuck back. nutsack, and then learn how to put a track or bar together like on the old Nintendo, playing track and field. Yikes, or yield all your thoughts. Stop, drop, shut, dumb down, and close up shop. Stop trying to remake DMX. Say I takes, fuck these double entendres. I'm just here to speak the language of the many deities and poets who came before me. So, to the SOS, put some respect on your media mesos. Even I consider this straight irrelevant mockery. Now, I dare you to come at me with something better and trust in this. I'm barely hanging onto my phone when I drop this beat with a mix of defeat and a baffling disease, which we all know you wrote from artificial intelligence. But if you're having trouble keeping up, I'll spell it out. Stop fucking up and stop writing shit out so your AI algorithm platform can do all the heavy lifting. Shit, I think it's time for me to stop solo up. I think I got these points across, but just in case for my outro, I'll leave my name, Jimmy James. So if you have any complaints, you know where and how to find me. If you feel the need for real help and you want to be real with a new twist, do what I did and take a risk. Straight rap lit, any way you want to spell it. This is my style and I made my mark. At least if you're going to abuse the AI to place your bets, then at least have the courtesy to come up with something decent or pleasing. Stop bursting with bullshit that you call your music. You know something, you may have to be rented by AI. Not ever, never, ever, never, ever, ever, never mind all that. Give me a couple days and I'll show you something better, never heard of. Yeah, it's Jimmy James saying, peace out and like always take care of one another and yourselves. This is a message to the fake ass want-to-bees who just want to be meaningful for a flick of a moment in time. But isn't that calling the kettle black? Fuck it. I know when I mess up or feel like a loser, I've lived this life, but I don't do it for the clicks or views on YouTube. I do it to spread the truth and maybe to help one of you realize you're better than what you think. No matter who says what or where, you only get one shot at this thing called life. So don't waste it over some beefed up internet entertainment. Words to strive by, words to die by, but they're my words. So go fuck yourself with your AI ally. Start putting to work so you can actually hold your head up high. This is poetry in motion. What you know of me.
Mixed music with hip-hop, drum, and bass.
Also a bit of New Jack Swing with a touch of luck and soul. Coming to you all, duh. Bomb diggity, splitting to the atoms of infinity. Just dropped a song called The Evolution of Rap Lit Style to Poetry. Yeah, that's pretty much everything you need to know of me. So on to version of the unknowns. Just a ridiculous human with a vision and unimaginable imagination. Little shout out to John Lennon. My pops played the Beatles more than I would like to calculate, but I must stress it was pretty much every day. Yo, so here I say we go ahead and again, back and forth till the end. Watch hella what I could. I spit from straight hood knowledge. To some I can see this being a challenge, but to me it's building a heavy layered beat mixed in with those words that I'm about to devour. The whole alphabet platter is flattering that every letter in the world. Bop bop boo boo wop, she whoop bop boo doo whoop. I would always end on truth, no matter how you hear me, no matter my mood. Just let me try to break through. Coming with my strip back, slowly rotated and cooked back just for you. Don't stop, can't stop. This creativity is just hippie hop shit too. Never mind stuff, stuffed and blended into an unrelatable concept that I have narrated in the utmost disrespectful way. I can arrange these alphabet, the letters to go into mind pit of the unbearable Jimmy James. Who that, who this? You just missed it. The rhyming prophet who goes off the chain with his insane pain. Mastered or not, this is the full correspondence of his delightful rearrangement. Letters of the whole milk in it. I wish I could understand why this being said in this moment, but fuck all the noises in my head. Let me really show you how I feel as the words come through in this moment. You can feel like I do. I would always end on truth, no matter how you hear me, no matter my mood. Just let me try to break through. Coming with my strip back, slowly rotated and
different takes on different days. I'm supposed to be splitting atoms down in different ways, but I must admit I was led astray. Whether it was from particles decay, or it was from that beast mode from my man Nihon's flow, with his verse on that dope one take that brought you all every day, every day. It doesn't matter what I say or how I say it, life just keeps moving on like dust till dawn. This is yet another attempt at a rap to the lit song, and hopefully I'm not doing you wrong, but even I must admit I have ceilings I have to shatter before I can level up and go on to the forefront of this matter. Whatever you decide to call this, song, music, poetry, emotion, rhyme or reason, and time again with nobody seizing any opportunities to make this shit world better that we all live in. You want to call this life, and the tragedies that throws you a dinner, and of course more media than you can ever hope for or think to believe. Just open your ears, clear your mind, maybe you can achieve the next big thing with this wacky crazy life that we're all having so much fun. And just remember one little thing, I was the one that told you so, but what that is, I really don't know. So peace out for now. Your man's Jimmy James. Family therapy, timestamp and personal notes. Here I go. Well, I'm putting in another personal note, just trying to see what has to go. I just got done paying these bills, and I feel sick from all these late payments. It's a shame, isn't it? And I like in a way that is relatively relevant from not taking my meds. Let's move on to the next line in this paragraph. It's paramount to tell you all my ruins of routines. I thought last night coming on this, wanted to put our personal notes, tragically telling you my sad story, so you can possibly feel some sort of happiness. Isn't that what empathy is? Share your heart, let it bleed for someone in need, to help somebody heal their pain. I'm not sitting here saying I'm a saint, just trying to paint you a picture for you to restore good faith. It's never too late, there's no expiration date, especially if you have family in need or someone you care for. Trust in this when I say love is hard to maintain. That's just wisdom pouring out and about those sort of things. Now my mom's in the hospital, and I had to prepare for her arrival, dealing with her illness. She can be hysterical, I could tell you more, but please understand, I have a mother who is in denial. I promised myself I would never write anything bad about her. Rap or poetry, ask yourself, what do you really know of me? I may be a lot of things, but a whiny bitch isn't one of them. Even though my mother holds the trophy for her own narcissistic tendencies, that's something we all carry unwillingly. We're dismixed, she's still my mom's and I'm her kid, and for my time left on this planet, even though we have our differences, I don't take this for granted. Not on my worst day, not on my last. I've talked to people who lost their loved ones in many tragic ways. What could I possibly say? But if the tables were turned, would she see it this way? I guess I just have to unknowingly learn truth to this until the narcissist wears down and out. And saying this don't make me, I'm not just talking about her or me. Can't you see, one kid to another? Maybe what I went through was rougher, but maybe, just maybe, you had no mother to deal you any raw emotions, or even have the notion of what's good and bad in this chaotic world of chaos, torment and I'm backstabbing. And I'm not even talking about unordinary people, I'm talking about the loved ones who will steal and torment you until you have nothing left in your heart but sickness, with a nice heavy dose of unwellness and narcissistic tendency to stick around like a fucking parasitic disease. So before I end this mix, I'm going to say I love you, ma. Sit back and chill while I move us on to another matter. Come to think about it, it's family that doesn't care, nor bother to check in with us, just to get a checkup on what's going on with 3 people. Yeah, that's me, my moms, and my pops, all living under one roof. Close family. motherfuckers will eat you alive and then strive to take what you have worked your whole lives all for to make. Then seriously turn around and act like they're the ones never to blame. But that's another word game. That's another word game.
Wow, Jimmy James! That's quite an introduction. I can feel your passion and creativity pouring out here as a highlight of some key points and offer some feedback. Okay, then Jimmy the Great One. Of course, the AI did not say this. I must have added this in.
You're writing a philosophical, rap-inspired literary work, rap-lit, exploring the future of everything, humanity's impact on the planet and our place in it and the universe. You're passionate about sharing your thoughts and concerns about the world's resources, sustainability, and our species' role in the whole 9 yards. Your writing style is conversational, reflective, and poetic with a touch of humor. You're using this work as a way to process your thoughts, hopes, and fears about the world and our collective future. You're eager to share your ideas and inspire others to think critically about our impact on the planet. So yeah, I added this in, and to my surprise, I realized I could do better on these rap poetry songs. This is just the beginning, folks, stay tuned, and I'll be bringing more to you as the time ticks forward. And like always, take care of yourself and one another. Sincerely, Jimmy James saying peace out from his first and only record drop. As Jimmy walks away, he smiles.